Nitric oxide is one of the most powerful healing molecules your body makes, yet most people have never been told how vital it truly is. In Dr. Myhill's physiology-driven approach, nitric oxide is what keeps the engine of the body running smoothly. It opens up blood vessels, allowing oxygen and nutrients to reach every corner of the body. It energizes mitochondria, the tiny power stations inside your cells, so they produce energy efficiently. And it strengthens your immune system, helping your body respond quickly and effectively to infections. But here's the problem: modern living destroys nitric oxide. Highly processed diets, chronic stress, poor sleep, environmental toxins, late night eating, and sedentary habits all shut down nitric oxide production. When nitric oxide drops, blood flow becomes sluggish, oxygen can't reach the tissues, and the mitochondria start to struggle. The result is low energy, chronic fatigue, brain fog, poor circulation, inflammation, and a weakened immune response. Your cells simply cannot defend themselves or repair properly without adequate nitric oxide. The good news, and this is something Dr. Myhill emphasizes repeatedly, is that the body can switch its nitric oxide factories back on very quickly when given the right raw materials. There are specific foods that activate the nitric oxide pathway almost immediately, improving blood flow, oxygen delivery, and cellular energy within days. In the following sections, you'll learn the 7 most potent foods and drinks that rapidly boost nitric oxide levels. These foods are not gimmicks. They work with your biology, enhancing cardiovascular health, improving mitochondrial function, reducing inflammation, and strengthening immunity from the cellular level up. Once you understand how simple dietary choices can restore nitric oxide, you'll see how quickly your body can heal, energize, and protect itself, often far faster than you might expect. Nitric oxide is a tiny gas molecule, but it behaves like a master controller inside the human body. It is produced on demand, acting as a messenger that tells the blood vessels when to relax, the mitochondria when to increase energy output, and the immune system when to switch into defense mode. In Dr. Myhill's Physiology, first view, nitric oxide is one of the key regulators of life itself because it governs how well oxygen and nutrients reach the cells. Without it, nothing in the body works efficiently. When nitric oxide increases, blood vessels open up, circulation improves, and oxygen can finally get to the tissues that have been starved of it. This improved oxygen transport feeds directly into mitochondrial function. Mitochondria cannot produce energy in a low oxygen environment, so the moment nitric oxide rises, they start generating ATP more effectively, and energy levels begin to lift. Nitric oxide also plays a central role in immunity. Immune cells use it as a signaling molecule and as a weapon against pathogens. When nitric oxide levels are optimal, the immune system becomes more responsive, targeted, and efficient. This is why people with good nitric oxide production typically recover faster from infections and experience fewer inflammatory flare-ups. But when nitric oxide is low, the body struggles. Poor circulation means cells are underoxygenated, and this forces the mitochondria into inefficient energy production. That is when fatigue appears, not the normal tiredness of a long day, but the deep, dragging tiredness where the brain feels foggy, the muscles feel heavy, and even simple tasks feel difficult. Low nitric oxide also explains cold hands and feet. If the blood vessels cannot dilate properly, the extremities become the first victims of reduced circulation. Over time, this poor blood flow affects muscle repair, connective tissue healing, and overall recovery. Inflammation rises because tissues are no longer getting the oxygen they need to repair, and the immune system becomes slower, making the body more susceptible to viral and bacterial infections. Many people blame aging or stress for these symptoms, but the underlying mechanism often comes back to inadequate nitric oxide production. Modern living is one of the biggest saboteurs of nitric oxide. Diets low in natural nitrates, the compounds found abundantly in leafy greens, beetroot, herbs, and root vegetables, deprive the body of the raw materials needed to produce nitric oxide. Instead, many people rely on highly processed foods, which not only lack these nitrates, but also contain additives that increase oxidative stress. Oxidative stress destroys nitric oxide rapidly, so even if the body manages to produce some, it gets neutralized before it can do its job. Sedentary lifestyles add another layer of suppression. Movement stimulates nitric oxide release from the lining of blood vessels, but long hours of sitting shut this mechanism down. Aging compounds everything because the enzymes responsible for producing nitric oxide become less active with time. The result is a perfect storm: lower production, faster breakdown, and reduced responsiveness of the blood vessels. This is where Dr. Myhill's approach is so valuable. She emphasizes that low nitric oxide is not a random occurrence, but a predictable consequence of modern habits. And because it is predictable, it is also correctable. Supporting nitric oxide is what she would call a root cause fix. Instead of chasing symptoms, fatigue, poor circulation, inflammation, or susceptibility to infections, you go upstream to the core physiological weakness. When nitric oxide rises, the body naturally restores its ability to oxygenate tissues, produce clean energy, and mount strong immune defenses. Many of the symptoms people struggle with simply begin to fade because the underlying systems start functioning properly again. One of the most encouraging aspects is how quickly nitric oxide can be restored. This is not a process that takes months. Once the body is given the right inputs, nitric oxide can increase within days. Certain foods contain concentrated sources of nitrates, antioxidants, and plant compounds that activate the nitric oxide pathways immediately. These foods work with the body's own biology, helping blood vessels relax, improving oxygen delivery, and reducing oxidative stress, so nitric oxide can survive long enough to do its job. This is why the next sections focus on 7 specific foods and drinks that rapidly elevate nitric oxide safely and naturally. They provide the raw materials, the catalysts, and the protective antioxidants needed to keep nitric oxide levels high. When used consistently, these foods can make a profound difference in circulation, immunity, energy, and overall cellular health. Leafy greens and beetroot are 2 of the most powerful natural ways to raise nitric oxide quickly because they contain high levels of inorganic nitrates, the exact raw material the body uses to produce nitric oxide. Arugula, kale, spinach, chard, watercress, beetroot, and beet greens all feed directly into the body's nitric oxide production pathway. This is one of the most reliable, predictable, and well-studied mechanisms we have for improving circulation, oxygenation, and cellular energy. In Dr. Myhill's biology, first perspective, these foods act as nitric oxide switches, turning back on a system that modern diets have largely shut down. When you consume nitrate-rich vegetables, something remarkable happens. The nitrates don't become nitric oxide immediately. Instead, they enter a highly efficient recycling loop known as the nitrite-nitric oxide pathway. It begins in the mouth, where beneficial bacteria on the tongue convert nitrates into nitrites. This is why mouthwash, especially antiseptic mouthwash, can dramatically reduce nitric oxide levels. It kills the bacteria needed for this conversion. Once the nitrites reach the stomach, the acidic environment converts them into nitric oxide, and some of the remaining nitrites circulate through the bloodstream, where they can be turned into nitric oxide again during times of low oxygen or increased demand. It is a beautiful example of how the body uses simple compounds from food to maintain circulation and oxygen delivery. Leafy greens excel at providing nitrates without adding stress to the body. Arugula is one of the richest nitrate sources found in nature, and spinach delivers a stable supply that the gut can convert throughout the day. Kale and chard contribute additional antioxidants, which protect nitric oxide from being broken down too quickly by oxidative stress. This combination is exactly why people feel more energized, clear, headed, and physically capable after consistently eating more greens. With improved nitric oxide comes better endothelial function, meaning the lining of your blood vessels becomes more responsive and flexible. Flexible blood vessels allow blood to flow smoothly, improving circulation and reducing the strain on the heart. Beetroot, on the other hand, provides a concentrated nitrate dose that delivers both rapid and sustained effects. Beetroot juice, in particular, has been shown to raise nitric oxide levels within hours. Athletes often use beetroot because it enhances endurance, increases time to exhaustion, and improves oxygen efficiency. This isn't magic, it's cellular physiology. With more nitric oxide, blood vessels dilate, muscles receive more oxygen, and the mitochondria produce more ATP using less effort. The same mechanism benefits those who are not athletes. People with low energy, cold extremities, or slow recovery often notice improvements when adding beetroot to their daily routine. Another key benefit of greens and beets is their influence on blood pressure. When nitric oxide rises, the blood vessels relax, easing resistance and allowing the heart to pump more freely. Many people see measurable reductions in blood pressure simply from increasing their intake of nitrate-rich vegetables. This effect isn't masking symptoms, it is supporting the biomechanics of healthy blood flow. It also supports immune function because nitric oxide allows immune cells to move efficiently through the bloodstream and helps them respond quickly to infections. Dr. Myhill would also point out the importance of consuming these foods in ways that preserve their nitrate content. Heating them excessively can reduce nitrate availability, so preparation matters. Eating them raw keeps the nitrates intact and allows the gut and oral microbiome to convert them effectively. Light steaming is another excellent method because it softens the fibers while maintaining potency. Juicing is a powerful way to deliver a concentrated dose, especially with beetroot. A small glass of beet juice can provide enough nitrates to boost nitric oxide throughout the day. Blending greens into smoothies is equally effective and adds fiber to support the microbiome, which further enhances nitrite conversion. Consistency is key. The nitric oxide cycle depends on daily input. The more regularly you consume these foods, the more reliable your nitric oxide levels become. Most people are deficient not because their bodies cannot produce nitric oxide, but because they rarely eat the foods that fuel the system. By reintroducing greens and beets, you're restoring a fundamental pathway that affects circulation, oxygen delivery, mitochondrial function, and immunity. This is a simple, accessible strategy that delivers fast and measurable improvements, aligning perfectly with the root cause approach needed for long-term health. Pomegranate and citrus fruits play a different but equally essential role in the nitric oxide system. While leafy greens and beetroot supply the raw nitrates needed to make nitric oxide, pomegranate and citrus fruits help the body protect stabilize and extend the life of that nitric oxide once it's produced. This is a crucial distinction because nitric oxide is an extremely short-lived molecule. Without protection from oxidative stress, it gets destroyed almost instantly. Dr. Myhill often explains that it's not only about producing nitric oxide, it's about stopping the body from losing it too quickly. And this is where these fruits excel. Pomegranate is one of the richest sources of polyphenols plant compounds with remarkable antioxidant capacity. These polyphenols bind to free radicals and neutralize them before they can destroy nitric oxide. In cellular terms, this means pomegranate. It effectively increases the half-life of nitric oxide, allowing it to remain active in the blood vessels for longer periods. The result is sustained vasodilation, improved circulation, and more efficient oxygen delivery throughout the day. People who regularly consume pomegranate often report better stamina, warmer extremities, and improved mental clarity, all signs that nitric oxide is remaining active longer than usual. Research has shown that pomegranate juice can improve endothelial function, which refers to the health and responsiveness of the blood vessel lining. When the endothelium is functioning well, it produces nitric oxide more efficiently and reacts properly to changes in pressure, temperature, and oxygen demand. Improved endothelial function is associated with lower blood pressure, more elastic arteries, and reduced cardiovascular strain. This is especially important for individuals dealing with inflammation or oxidative stress, which stiffens blood vessels and reduces nitric oxide availability. Pomegranate helps break that cycle. Citrus fruits offer another line of support through vitamin C. Vitamin C is a powerful antioxidant with a special affinity for protecting nitric oxide, especially the nitric oxide produced directly by the endothelium. It stabilizes the nitric oxide molecule, reduces its rate of breakdown, and enhances the activity of the enzymes responsible for making it. When vitamin C levels are sufficient, the endothelium becomes more responsive. It produces more nitric oxide in response to physical activity, temperature changes, and metabolic needs. This is why citrus fruits are often associated with improved circulation, reduced inflammation, and stronger immune activity. Vitamin C also enhances immune function at a deeper level. Immune cells rely on nitric oxide to communicate and coordinate their response to pathogens. When nitric oxide is stabilized and protected by vitamin C, immune signaling becomes faster and more precise. Research shows that individuals with higher vitamin C intake have better immune cell mobility, reduced inflammatory markers, and improved resistance to infections. From a Myhill perspective, this is simply good physiology. Protect nitric oxide and the immune system performs closer to its natural design. Another important aspect is arterial elasticity. Both pomegranate polyphenols and citrus vitamin C improve the flexibility of blood vessels by reducing oxidative damage to the endothelial lining. Stiff arteries are a hallmark of chronic inflammation and oxidative stress, and low nitric oxide is usually part of that picture. When arteries become flexible again, blood pressure naturally stabilizes, oxygen delivery improves, and the workload on the heart decreases. This is not symptom management, this is reversing the biological drivers of dysfunction. Pomegranate also reduces inflammation in a more direct way. Its polyphenols suppress inflammatory enzymes and block the oxidation of LDL cholesterol, reducing the formation of arterial plaque. With less oxidative stress, nitric oxide survives longer, and the blood vessels remain open and functional. This is why pomegranate is often recommended for metabolic health, heart health, and anti-inflammatory protocols. One of the most powerful strategies, and one Dr. Myhill would highlight, is to combine these fruits with nitrate-rich vegetables. When you pair pomegranate or citrus fruits with leafy greens or beetroot, you create a synergistic effect. The greens and beets supply the nitrates that convert into nitric oxide, while the polyphenols and vitamin C from the fruits protect that nitric oxide from destruction. This means you are not only increasing nitric oxide production, but also ensuring it remains active long enough to make meaningful physiological changes. A simple example would be adding lemon juice to a green salad or drinking a small glass of pomegranate juice alongside a beetroot-based meal. Another practical tip is to consume these fruits fresh and unprocessed. Heating destroys vitamin C, and many commercial pomegranate juices are pasteurized, reducing polyphenol potency. Fresh pomegranate seeds, freshly squeezed citrus, or minimally processed juices retain the compounds that protect nitric oxide most effectively. Consistency is key. Small amounts consumed daily can produce noticeable improvements in circulation, energy, and immune resilience. Pomegranate and citrus fruits do not create nitric oxide on their own. Instead, they help the body keep the nitric oxide it produces, allowing the benefits to last longer and reach deeper into the tissues. This protective role makes them essential partners to nitrate-rich foods and an important part of any strategy aimed at improving blood flow, reducing inflammation, strengthening immunity, and supporting mitochondrial function. Garlic works on the nitric oxide system in a completely different way from nitrates or polyphenols. Instead of supplying raw materials or protecting nitric oxide from breakdown, garlic directly activates the enzymes responsible for producing nitric oxide inside the body. These enzymes, collectively known as nitric oxide synthase NOS, are what convert the amino acid L-arginine into nitric oxide. When the NOS enzymes are sluggish or suppressed by inflammation, stress, or aging, nitric oxide production drops sharply. Garlic contains powerful sulfur-based compounds that stimulate these enzymes, effectively switching on nitric oxide production from the inside out. This gives garlic a unique catalytic effect, complementing nitrate-rich foods and antioxidant-rich fruits by supporting the body's internal nitric oxide machinery. One of garlic's most important compounds is allicin, which is formed when garlic is crushed or chopped. Allicin and its related sulfur compounds have a profound effect on blood vessels. They increase the flexibility of the vascular endothelium, allowing it to produce nitric oxide more efficiently. They also help relax the smooth muscles surrounding the blood vessels, improving blood flow and reducing resistance. Many people experience noticeably warmer hands and feet after increasing their garlic intake because circulation improves so quickly. These sulfur compounds also reduce oxidative stress, ensuring that more of the newly produced nitric oxide remains available to support tissue oxygenation and mitochondrial energy production. Garlic's anti-inflammatory effects further support nitric oxide production. Chronic inflammation generates oxidative molecules that destroy nitric oxide before it can be used. By lowering inflammation through its sulfur compounds, garlic protects nitric oxide and helps restore the normal functioning of endothelial cells. People who consume garlic regularly often report reduced joint stiffness, improved recovery after exercise, and better cognitive clarity benefits directly linked to improved circulation and reduced inflammatory load. Garlic's influence isn't limited to circulation or nitric oxide. It has potent antiviral, antibacterial, and antifungal properties that have been recognized for centuries. Traditional medicine systems around the world used garlic as a frontline defense against infections long before antibiotics existed. Modern research confirms that garlic's allicin can disrupt the cell walls of bacteria, inhibit viral replication, and weaken fungal biofilms. This makes garlic a broad-spectrum immune enhancer, giving the body extra tools to fight pathogens, while nitric oxide strengthens the immune response from within. Nitric oxide itself is a key part of the immune defense system. Immune cells use it as both a signaling molecule and a weapon to neutralize pathogens. By increasing nitric oxide production and enhancing immune signaling, garlic makes these immune cells more efficient. People with sluggish immunity, recurring infections, or chronic fatigue often benefit from garlic because it boosts both circulation and immune defenses simultaneously. This dual action explains why garlic is consistently included in protocols for immune strengthening, cardiovascular support, detoxification, and microbial balance. Dr. Myhill often emphasizes preparation as the key to unlocking garlic's therapeutic effect. Allicin does not exist in whole garlic. It only forms when the garlic is physically damaged, allowing the enzyme alliinase to convert allicin into allicin. The best method is simple. Crush or chop raw garlic and let it sit exposed to air for about 10 minutes. This oxidation period allows allicin to fully activate. Once activated, it can survive the digestive process long enough to deliver its benefits to the bloodstream. Cooking garlic immediately after crushing it stops this reaction, reducing its medicinal potency. Lightly cooking garlic after letting it activate is acceptable, but raw garlic provides the strongest nitric oxide and immune-enhancing effects. A practical approach is to incorporate 1 clove of raw, crushed garlic into meals daily. Adding it to salads, dressings, dips, or even swallowing small raw portions with food can make a significant difference to circulation, inflammation, and immune resilience. For those sensitive to raw garlic, mixing it with yogurt, olive oil, or honey can reduce digestive discomfort without reducing its potency. Garlic's real strength comes from its ability to activate nitric oxide synthase, improve blood vessel responsiveness, lower inflammation, and support immune systems overwhelmed by modern stressors. When combined with nitrate-rich vegetables and polyphenol-rich fruits, garlic creates a more comprehensive nitric oxide effect, one that supports energy, circulation, immunity, and cellular health at multiple levels. Dark cocoa and raw cacao are among the most underestimated nitric oxide boosters, yet they work through some of the most powerful biochemical pathways in the body. Their strength lies in their flavanols' unique plant compounds that directly stimulate nitric oxide production while protecting blood vessels from oxidative stress. These flavanols enhance the activity of the endothelial cells that line the blood vessels, encouraging them to produce more nitric oxide naturally. When these cells are nourished with enough flavanols, they become more flexible, more responsive, and more efficient at regulating circulation. This is why dark cocoa consistently shows improvements in blood flow, energy levels, and cognitive performance. Several studies have demonstrated that cocoa flavanols significantly increase nitric oxide in the bloodstream, leading to better vasodilation and improved oxygen delivery. When blood vessels widen even slightly, oxygen has a much easier time reaching the brain, the muscles, and the heart. People often notice a gentle lift in mental clarity or physical energy after consuming high flavanol cocoa because the improved circulation directly enhances mitochondrial function. Mitochondria depend heavily on consistent oxygen supply, and any improvement in vascular flexibility allows them to produce ATP more efficiently. Cocoa also has a profound anti-inflammatory effect. Chronic inflammation stiffens blood vessels, interferes with nitric oxide production, and increases oxidative stress. Flavanols counter these effects by neutralizing reactive oxygen molecules, reducing inflammatory markers, and protecting the endothelial lining from damage. This is one of the reasons dark cocoa is associated with better cardiovascular health, enhanced recovery from exercise, and improvements in metabolic function. By reducing inflammation, the body's nitric oxide becomes more stable and longer lasting, amplifying its benefits for circulation and immunity. One of the most interesting findings from research is cocoa's impact on brain oxygenation. High flavanol cocoa increases blood flow to the brain, especially in areas responsible for memory, focus, and executive function. This is not just a superficial boost, it reflects deeper improvements in vascular responsiveness and nitric oxide availability within the brain's microcirculation. People who consume dark cocoa regularly often describe sharper thinking, improved mood, and better resilience to stress. These effects align perfectly with Dr. Myhill's emphasis on mitochondrial health because better oxygenation allows brain mitochondria to function at a higher capacity. Cocoa's benefits extend further into energy production. Mitochondria thrive in an oxygen-rich environment, and nitric oxide helps regulate mitochondrial efficiency. With more nitric oxide and less oxidative stress, the mitochondria can produce cleaner, more sustainable energy. This is why dark cocoa is often recommended for individuals dealing with fatigue, sluggish circulation, or poor exercise tolerance. However, not all chocolate is created equal. Most commercial chocolate products contain excessive sugar, additives, dairy, and processing methods that destroy the very flavonols responsible for health benefits. To support nitric oxide production, it is essential to choose chocolate that contains 70–100% cacao. The higher the percentage, the richer it is in flavonols and the lower it is in sugar. Raw cacao, unheated and minimally processed, contains the highest levels of these beneficial compounds, making it the optimal choice for nitric oxide support. Dr. Myhill would highlight the importance of consuming cocoa in ways that preserve its polyphenols. Heating cocoa at high temperatures can degrade flavonols, reducing its therapeutic value. A practical approach is to use raw cacao powder in smoothies, yogurt, or cold preparations to retain its full potency. If using cocoa in warm drinks, keeping the temperature moderate warm, not boiling, helps preserve more of its antioxidants. Mixing raw cacao with water, plant milk, or even blending it into a morning drink with beetroot or greens can create a powerful nitric oxide supporting combination. Another Myhill style recommendation is to avoid combining cocoa with excessive sugar, milk, or processed fats, as these can blunt its nitric oxide boosting effects. Milk proteins in particular can bind to flavonols, making them less bioavailable. This is why dark, dairy-free chocolate or pure cacao powder delivers the strongest physiological benefits. Consistency matters just as much as quality. Small amounts of dark cocoa or cacao consumed daily can steadily improve endothelial function, support nitric oxide production, reduce inflammation, and enhance mitochondrial output. For individuals seeking better circulation, more stable energy, or improved cognitive performance, dark cocoa offers a simple and enjoyable way to nourish the body's nitric oxide system. Combining it with nitrate-rich vegetables or vitamin in C-rich fruits can further amplify its effects, creating a multi-layered approach to supporting vascular health, immunity, and cellular vitality. Nitric oxide production depends far more on the microbiome than most people realize. Even if you eat plenty of nitrate-rich vegetables, you won't make enough nitric oxide unless the right bacteria are present in your mouth and gut. These bacteria are responsible for the first and most important step of the nitric oxide pathway. They take the nitrates from leafy greens, beets, and vegetables and convert them into nitrites, the essential building block that later becomes nitric oxide in the stomach and bloodstream. Without these nitrate-reducing bacteria, nitric oxide production collapses. This is why many people who eat well still struggle with cold extremities, low energy, inflammation, or poor recovery. The microbiome simply isn't doing its job. Fermented foods help restore these crucial bacteria. Kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, probiotic yogurt, and other live fermented foods deliver billions of beneficial microbes that reseed the gut and oral microbiome. These microbes are excellent nitrate reducers. When they repopulate the mouth and intestines, the body becomes far more efficient at converting plant nitrates into nitric oxide. The process becomes smoother, faster, and more reliable, allowing nitric oxide levels to rise naturally throughout the day. This improved conversion is why people often experience better digestion, stronger immunity, and improved circulation after introducing fermented foods into their daily routine. Nitric oxide plays a role in every one of those improvements. A damaged microbiome, on the other hand, can sabotage nitric oxide production completely. Antibiotics, antiseptic mouthwash, processed foods, chronic stress, and poor sleep all reduce beneficial bacteria. When these microbes are depleted, nitrate conversion drops and nitric oxide production follows. The consequences can be far-reaching: reduced blood flow, sluggish immunity, increased oxidative stress, mitochondrial dysfunction, and chronic inflammation. A weak microbiome means weak nitric oxide output, which means weak cellular energy. This is a classic downstream effect, Doctor. Myhill often highlights when the gut is compromised, everything else begins to malfunction. From a physiology-based perspective, the microbiome doesn't just influence nitric oxide. It controls multiple systems simultaneously. Gut bacteria regulate inflammation by producing short-chain fatty acids that calm the immune system and protect the gut barrier. They influence mitochondrial function by helping regulate nutrient absorption, detoxification, and antioxidant production. And they maintain cardiovascular health by supporting nitric oxide production and reducing the oxidative molecules that would otherwise destroy it. When the microbiome is functioning well, inflammation drops, mitochondria produce more energy, circulation improves, and immune resilience strengthens. All of these benefits depend directly on microbial activity. Fermented foods provide a natural and effective way to restore these systems. Kefir supplies a broad spectrum of bacteria and yeasts that survive digestion and colonize the gut. Sauerkraut and kimchi deliver powerful lactobacillus strains that excel at nitrate reduction and inflammation control. Probiotic yogurt, when it contains live cultures, replenishes gut protective bacteria that strengthen the intestinal lining and support nutrient absorption. Even small amounts of these foods, when consumed daily, can significantly improve nitric oxide production and overall physiology. The synergy between fermented foods and nitrate-rich vegetables is especially powerful. Greens and beets supply the nitrates, and fermented foods supply the microbes that convert those nitrates into nitric oxide. Without one, the other cannot reach full potential. This combination often yields noticeable changes in circulation, warmth in the extremities, clearer thinking, and better stamina. The improved nitric oxide output also supports immune cells, which rely on nitric oxide for communication and defense against pathogens. Dr. Myhill's approach consistently emphasizes the importance of supporting the body at the cellular level. Nitric oxide is a foundational molecule, and the microbiome is a foundational system. When you improve both, the effects ripple through the entire body: improved oxygen delivery, reduced inflammation, faster recovery, better mitochondrial output, and stronger immunity. This is why restoring the microbiome through fermented foods is a central strategy for boosting nitric oxide naturally and safely. When you step back and look at all 7 nitric oxide boosting foods, they form a simple and highly effective daily strategy. Leafy greens and beetroot supply the raw nitrates. Pomegranate and citrus fruits protect and stabilize nitric oxide. Garlic boosts nitric oxide synthase and strengthens immune defenses. Dark cocoa promotes endothelial health and reduces inflammation. And fermented foods restore the microbiome that converts nitrates into usable nitric oxide. Together, these foods address every point in the nitric oxide pathway, allowing the body to rebuild its circulation, immunity, and cellular energy quickly and reliably.